Hey Bears, Eric here, and we need to talk about Rachel Zegler. And I'm not talking about the Snow White movie, okay? We need to talk about Rachel Zegler and the Hunger Games movie that came out last week. And the reason why is a lot of these chud channels, GriftTube, anti-fan channels, are getting handed a massive L right now. It's a pretty massive L. It's a big one. It could be bigger. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but pretty massive L because once again, their predictions, their astroturfing, all the stuff that they typically do has backfired for them. And what I mean by that is they really desperately want the Snow White movie to be a massive failure. And in order to paint that narrative as a pretty picture, they need the Hunger Games to also be a failure. So they can start laying down this narrative that Rachel Zegler is box office kryptonite and that anything she touches is going to be bad, right? Because they've been wrong a lot this year. The only thing that they've claimed a small victory on is that their throwing of darts towards the Marvels actually worked a little bit for them because the movie is underperforming, but it's not because of them. Because they weren't really talking about that movie until about a week before the movie came out. So they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't astroturf hard enough. Let's take a look at this here. So this is about a week ago for most of these channels where the chuddiness was chudding. Okay, it was really chudding here. We have quartering here. Rachel Zegler delusional response to Hunger Games flop as media has meltdown. Here we go. Mediaholic. Rachel Zegler's Hunger Game fails at the box office. Go down here. Disparu goes Rachel Zegler's Hunger Game reviews. Bomb Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes Flies. That's just a string of anti-fan buzzwords. We have Ryan Cannell, known liar, along with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, who have admitted they just make videos to make videos here. A lot of effort in that 3 minute and 58 seconds there. She just can't win with the fail in the thumbnail. Rachel Zegler's Hunger Games could be a massive flop, tracking worse than the Marvels. Quartering with another one here, and it just goes on and on, just more and more like trash here. Yeah, it's just Rachel Zegler is failing bad. The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes flops. So these are all the typical channels, right? And that's because they were like, oh, we really need this. We need this to be a failure. Let's take a look at where we're at right now. So this movie had a budget, I don't know if you can see it over here, of 100 million. That was the budget. And as of right now, and it's probably going to get adjusted more because I'm making this video over the weekend, so it'll probably be adjusted more by next week. But it's already getting around 200 million now in its second weekend, which means that it's a possibility that the next weekend could go on to add another big chunk of change to that. And I think ultimately, yeah, again, it's not going to be like $1 billion movie, but it's definitely not flopping. They're going to try. I do believe when it's all said and done, they will try to paint this as being a failure. By coming up with some like, oh, well, you can't count this money and that, but they'll be nickel and diming the budget to try and make it look like it's a failure. However, let's take a look over here. It says Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes breaks major record for the Hunger Games franchise. The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes sets a box office record for the franchise during its second weekend in theaters. I think this is really important here, right? It says, and it seems that Snow's power has also reached the film's box office. Deadline reports the movie is projected to amass a total of $41.4 million at the domestic box office over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, ranking number one, surpassing other titles such as Napoleon, Wish, and The Marvels, but even adding only the numbers from Friday to Sunday, 24.8 million. It represents a drop of only 44.4% compared to its opening weekend, making it the smallest second weekend drop of the entire franchise. So they were saying it's a franchise killer, but this tells me that's not the case. It says the record was previously held by Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 with a 49.3% drop for a like 3-day total. And then it goes on to talk about Wish and Napoleon will fall short against the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, which again won the weekend here. So it is not. This is not a flop. It's not a flop at all. Matter of fact, what this tells me is it has a very good chance of having another strong weekend, considering I don't think anything big is going up against it next week. We won't see that until we get into December, like properly into December. So I don't think this movie's got much competition in terms of that. And this bodes poorly for a lot of those channels because now they have to shift their narrative. So what they're going to do now is they're going, like I said, they're going to start nickel and diming the budget. They're going to start talking about other things about Rachel Zegler that don't necessarily tie to the Hunger Games. Um, they'll find other ways. This is what they do. They'll find other ways to demean the movie because now it's not going to be a financial flop. So they're going to look at other things. This is how they function. This is how they operate. I thought we'd take a quick look at some of the channels like Quartering and Ryan Cannell and seeing if they've already started to shift their arguments about this movie to try and once again smear Rachel Zegler. So let's take a look at some of their channels. All right, so first up, we're going to look at the Quartering's channel, and it looks like the last video he did on her was 3 days ago on Rachel Zegler, not about the Hunger Games. It says Rachel Zegler suing after being fired by Disney and Paramount. Cites toxic fans after Snow White mess. So completely forgetting that Hunger Games is even out in theaters now because that's not going to work. It's not going to be able to do that. And even here, it's got Hunger Games and then 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Just all bullshit lies. It goes Rachel Zegler torched for saying her Snow White a girl boss and gets canceled in China. So yeah, they've decided that Hunger Games it's not going to be a flop, so he can't grift on that anymore. Let's take a look at Ryan Cannell's page. Jeez, it's been a minute here. So the last one he did was 7 days ago, which says Rachel Zegler's Hunger Games worst box office opening in franchise history can't beat the Marvels. So he did that video 7 days ago, and then he completely forgot the movie existed. He hasn't talked about the success of that movie. I don't see a video here saying that it won the weekend or that it set records for the franchise or anything like that. So this is why I have an issue with these guys, because it's not that they don't like stuff or they don't want to, praise things that they're not into. It's that they don't actually talk about the things when they go against the narrative that they're spinning. And this is why when Jeremy said what he said about Ryan Cannell, is that they create a narrative. The narrative is that that movie is a failure. And now that it's not going to be a failure, they're going to stop talking about it because they don't want to show that they were wrong. And so they're going to just ignore the fact that the movie did really well and sort of just move on here. I mean, look at this right here. If we look at the last day here, we got some Aquaman 2 stuff about it tracking badly. Wish crashing for Disney. Destroyed by competition, other Disney failure. Doesn't want to put Hunger Games in the title, just competition. Marvel gets called out for lying. Even woke media slams Marvel's box office bomb. Still talking about the Marvels. Over here, Wish is a total box office disaster for woke Disney, rejected by fans and families. Huge flop. So yeah, he's completely shifted away from talking about Hunger Games, even though Rachel Zegler has been his target for a long time. And this is why I say that it's misogyny and it's a bunch of other things involved there, because he went after her so hard, but when she actually turns things around and is a part of a movie that is being successful and it's actually making money, he doesn't want to give her flowers. And so that's an issue. That's a problem. There's no credit given for when he's wrong. So this is typical of these guys when it comes to this kind of stuff. And just know that they will never, ever, ever, ever admit when they are wrong. They'll never backtrack. They'll never go, oh, we predicted this to be a flop and it wasn't. And this is what they do. This is why whenever they quote unquote claim victory, like with the Marvels or any of these other movies that underperform, they are simply taking credit for something that had nothing to do with them. It had nothing to do with them or any of their brain dead minions that follow them. These movies exist outside of the internet bubble. We're talking like a massive difference in the amount of money the movies make versus how many people watch these videos. 24,000 views on a video, right? That is a drop in the bucket for these movies, for these franchises. There's no way in the world that those channels have that kind of influence. It is culture war grifting for money. That's all it is. And I really wish the people that follow those channels would just sort of wake up and understand that you are being manipulated. And like, again, you don't have to watch me. You don't have to watch any of the other people that talk against these channels. You can simply go watch other things. I don't know why you guys continue to watch these channels. They're liars. They lie to you. They mislead you. They misrepresent stuff. You don't need that kind of validation or echo chamber to be a happy person. And I can't imagine you're happy watching all that negativity all the time. Anyway, shout out to Rachel for this movie and for everybody behind the Hunger Games franchise. So shout out to them. congratulations. I wish them nothing but success, and hopefully they go on to make a chunk of money for this film.